night in the slave quarters, they spoke their African names and told their children of their cerulean blue sky in their village and the rich, dark soil where cotton plants shot up wild and a yam grew so big it fed a family. We raised the wheat, they give us the corn. We bake the bread, they give us the crust. We sift the meal, they give us the husk. We peel the meat, they give us the skin, and that's the way they take us in. Them skim the pot, they give us the liquor, and say that's good enough for nigger. And so this was really powerful, powerful stuff about trying to articulate their resistance, right? Finally there was the courage to inflict a little havoc and damage and tried to prove that, whoa, we've been treated so poorly that we have to rise above it. Can you imagine the bravery? Imagine being 8 years old. Imagine being your age and being a slave with no rights. And then all of a sudden being freed and have to adapt. So I don't know the different stories. I mean, some of you have studied a lot about the Holocaust. Some of you have studied a lot about this. It's really fascinating and just amazingly good stuff. So use it as an example, you guys. The difference between fooling around and understanding about that respect and tolerance and how important it is. Very cool.
Okay, I'm going to go next. This is a memoir of Benjamin Jacobs. He was a dentist in Auschwitz, which was one of the German camps during the Holocaust. I chose this one because it shows a kind of inside view of what happened. So I'm going to read it here. Traumatized, starved, and soaked with human waste, we look to be the inhuman, useless creatures that the Nazis has characterized us as being. It was dark when the train stopped. Dawn came a few minutes later, and the light began breaking through the windows. We are not at the station. Why did they stop? We wondered. A few minutes later, the wheels began to roll slowly. Then they stopped and rolled and stopped and rolled. Again, screeching. It was light enough to see the distant fences. We must be at a camp, and at least at the end of this misery. Perhaps the prophecy of our doom and death was wrong. A boy of perhaps 16 asked what the strange gestures meant. No one answered him. No one wanted to share his grimmest thoughts. It is hard to describe our macabre mood. The meaning of the smoke was now apparent. It was not the train. My father was praying. I no longer thought that God could save us. My trust in him had ended. My genesis, without him, had taken place long ago in Steiner. The train rolled on. We passed more uniformed people. They looked on while SS men held flashlights and other prisoners gave us more strange signals. Some raised their arms up, mimicking Hercules. A constant stream of smoke spewed into the air. The train slowed and stopped. The doors rolled open and started us with loud bangs. Ross, Al Ross, Alla Ligen Lassen, which means out, all out, leave everything. The SS shouted. The cement platform was crowded with SS men, yelling and waving us impatiently out of the wagon. Ross, they yelled, as the dogs growled, showing menacing teeth. The word Auschwitz hung like a bad omen in the air. The impact shocked us. It was a ghastly sound that no one repeated. We knew that the word stood for selection and death. We knew that in Auschwitz was where the Jews returned to ashes. Okay, so now Adam will read this.
Carried what was left of my family and neighbors to an unknown destination. At the time we were at a forced labor in what was then known as the Democratic Kampuchea, which is Cambodia as we call it today. Our group was counted one by the armed men. Some who were more like boys my age at the time. There were 87 of us and altogether 7 of them. None of us knew for sure where we were going. However, after we had experienced similar movements many times previously, we didn't really care where we were heading next. Many died in front of me from heat stroke, sickness, exhaustion, and starvation, but most people died from the beating they received from the soldiers, and many were quietly taken away in the cover of night to almost a certain destination, death. All the time I wondered when our turn would come. I wished it would arrive sooner so that we wouldn't have to suffer like those before us. People from my group began to drop like flies in the muddy bottom of the canal. Very few even bothered to take them to a proper burial. The dead and the near dead were scattered all over as far as my eyes could see. One night, a pointed object poked at my face at the night very hard and woke up to see the front end of an AK-47 rifle. The boy was no more than 12 years old, just a few years younger than I was, but much, much fatter. He was yelling angrily for me to get up from the mud. "Go ahead and shoot me," I said to myself. I was ready to die. It was hopeless. They ordered us to file into a row of 4. A small group of soldiers who were to escort us were made up of all ages, some as young as 10. There were only 5 of them to escort what was left of my original group and family, but now there were only 79 of us altogether. And all I could think at the time was, how could so few people control 79 of us, and why would they kill us? After 3 miles of walking, they asked us to stop and wait for the rest of the group to catch up. People were very weak at this time, and the 3-mile hike took its toll. Another child died on the way. After some hesitation, the soldiers allowed the mother to bury her child. And then I saw in the news last week some spokesperson from the United Nations speaking on behalf of the people. And she said it became so bad that the lives of rats were worth more than the lives of women and children.